Hello, people of the internet. Here is the picture of the day. Oh. So, I'm here to talk about a movie that I really like, and it is a pretty divisive film, honestly. It is Star Wars The Last Jedi, and I'm really not here to try to sway you and say, hey, it is the best Star Wars movie or anything. I understand why people don't like it, and I've talked with friends that didn't like it, and honestly, their opinions and their reasoning is pretty good. I get it. So I'm not here to sway anyone. I'm just here to kind of give my viewpoint on it and how the film impacted me. So, needless to say, spoilers for The Last Jedi. If you haven't seen it already, what are you doing on YouTube? Go watch it immediately. It is culturally relevant. This has kind of been on my mind since the movie came out. I wanted to just kind of regurgitate all of my thoughts and put it into one little package for people. And so I'm finally getting around to doing it, I guess. There's kind of three major character groups that, at least for the Rebels, that go on during the movie. The first one I want to talk about is kind of the Admiral Holdo and Poe Dameron group. And this one is kind of probably, honestly, my least favorite. I like Poe Dameron as a character, and I also like Holdo as a character, even though there wasn't much development with her. Like, we didn't really get to know her very well. She just kind of showed up, and she seemed cool, and then, that was that. Whereas Poe, we've kind of seen him before, and I've kind of grown to like him, but as a lot of characters do, he is just making stupid decisions in this movie. And I have to say, this character grouping, for me personally, was the most frustrating. I feel like almost all of the conflict between them could have been solved by, like, one sentence of just like, hey, I have a plan. And I know it's not a captain's job to know what the Admiral is doing, but he was causing enough of a fuss that you would think just like a simple, hey, calm down, I got a plan, would be, helpful in that situation, and it would have just caused like half of those bad events to not happen. But, plot or whatever. Also, this character grouping does lead to some very interesting questions that come up within the Star Wars universe. Like, okay, if you can just hyperdrive into a fleet and just destroy them, like, why don't we just have hyperdrive missiles or something? And why couldn't Holdo just set it to autopilot to do that and just shoot it at the ship and then get on an escape pod, or, and set the coordinates and then get on an escape pod and get out of there? I don't know. But, it's Star Wars. I'm sure once somewhere in the extended universe, they'll explain it away with some convoluted reasoning or whatever. But all that to say, it provided one of the coolest scenes in any Star Wars movie. Man, when that hyperdrive ship went through the Empire fleet, and the audio just completely drops out, it was one of the coolest things. The audience, like, I just remember when I saw it, the audience just, like, lost their breath and was just like, did that just happen? Yes, it did. So the next set of characters was the whole Finn and Rose and Guillermo or Benicio del Toro, not Guillermo. That's a different guy. Benicio del Toro, his character, whose name I honestly am forgetting, which maybe is a bad thing considering I thought he was a fun character. A lot of people didn't like him because they could only see Del Toro, but I don't know. I thought he was fun and an interesting wild card kind of in the whole story. A lot of people didn't really like the casino scene because they thought, you know what, it was completely pointless. It didn't have any bearing to the story. And you're right. It largely didn't. But at very least, I thought the casino itself and getting to see all of the creatures inside of it was fun. I'm a big sucker for universe building and world building, so it was fun to see. It was fun to see all the weird aliens.
Oh, yes. This place is great.
Okay.
Ultimately, didn't matter a whole lot. The whole romance between Finn and Rose I found a little meh. It's kind of weird, but it didn't ruin the movie for me or anything. So, I don't know. Mixed review on that one. The other thing is Phasma. I still don't know at this point. Phasma, her whole arc was kind of interesting, and people were upset that, oh, cool, like, she did nothing, and now she's gone. But then, you know who else did that? Boba Fett. Like, Boba Fett did that. He showed up, did nothing, and then promptly died, and then got resurrected in the EU. So, in all honesty, we didn't really see Phasma explicitly die. It was just heavily implied. You know, they'll bring her back in the EU somewhere. It'll be fine. All right, and then we come to the third group, which is my favorite group. The group that carries the movie, in my opinion. Rey, Kylo, and Luke. Everyone was so happy that Luke was back. I am too. A lot of people complained that he wasn't, a Jedi in the strictest sense, and that his story essentially ended. But honestly, that's kind of what this whole trilogy has been about, is the old characters kind of passing the torch to the new characters. So I thought it was fitting, and I thought it was good. But Kylo and Rey, oh my goodness, I love it. Their dynamic with each other is fantastic. So Rey and Kylo were easily my favorite part of the whole movie. Their dynamic is great. I thought their acting was very good, and their character development is really good. After The Force Awakens, what I really desperately wanted out of the next installment was character development for Kylo, and I think we're getting that. In other stories, there's been the bad guy that slowly turns good and is redeemed at the end, and that's really what I'm hoping for with Kylo. Or at least, he's more of a neutral character by the end of it. Maybe not like, I'm going to go save the galaxy or something, but he's at least redeemed, and I think we're pushing towards that. But interestingly, they took it and kind of also were pulling Rey more towards the center. So, like, maybe they're pushing to meet in the middle somewhere? I'm not sure. It'll be interesting, though. Oh, and then also the action scene, the throne room scene. So good. So good. I'm going to be honest. I think that movie may have been a lot less good in my mind if it weren't for the throne room fight and scene with confronting Snoke. Everyone was kind of complaining, like, oh, we didn't know anything about Snoke, and now he's just gone. Like, okay, but that has to do with why I love the movie, which I'll be getting into. Actually, speaking of which, the main reason I liked the movie is subverting expectations, which I'm sure a lot of people have talked about already, and fine. So, disclaimer, the reason why I like The Last Jedi so much is because of the world that it inhabits. If you were just taking the movie itself and nothing else, and if The Last Jedi was the only movie in existence, then I probably wouldn't like it as much as I do. And you could argue, well, then you're not reviewing the movie, it's whatever. Well, okay, I guess. But really, nothing exists in a vacuum. And that's the case with The Last Jedi. And that's part of the reason why I liked it so much. When I saw The Force Awakens originally, I was a little upset because it didn't world build as much as I wanted, and it felt, at least plot-wise, like a rehash of Episode 4. And I know they kind of did that intentionally, but I didn't like it. When they were bringing up the plans to Starkiller Base, and then they were about to say, oh, we have to go destroy it, I thought it was a joke. I was waiting for the punchline, or for them to say something like, that's ridiculous, like, we already did that, or, something. And the punchline didn't come. That was the plot. We're like, oh, okay, we already did this twice, but I guess we'll do it again. That's fine. So, after having that in mind, going into The Last Jedi, it was very refreshing, because you think, oh, okay, we're going into Snoke's throne room, and like we're gonna have this confrontation and he'll get away, or something, and the complete opposite happens. They just kill him. Like, oh, he's not the big bad anymore. That's part of why I loved this movie, is just there's so many ways that it took what you thought was going to happen and just flipped it on its head. Another way they subverted my expectations was with Rey. After Episode 7, you're just wondering, like, okay, how is she related to, someone in the series or something? And you find out that her parents were just nobodies. That she's not related to anything in any way. And it was just refreshing, because you're like, oh, I know something's going to happen. And then, like, when it happens, you're, oh, that's not what I thought was going to happen. It's just so great. Another thing I loved is Kylo just yelling at the camera, let the past go, let the past die.
It's time to let old things die. No, you're still holding on. Let go.
He's just freaking out. And in that moment when I first saw it, I was just thinking of Kylo yelling it at the audience and all of the Star Wars fans that just won't let the original trilogy die. They just continue to hold on to it. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love all of the Star Wars movies. I love the original trilogy. I love the prequels, and I love the new films, and I love the spin-offs. I know they are flawed in a lot of ways, but there are people that just hold on to the original trilogy and won't let it die, and won't let the new trilogies or the prequels or whatever just be its own thing. I just imagined Rian Johnson yelling at the audience through Kylo Ren, just let it die. It's okay that it's different, And it was just, I don't know, I thought that part was great, personally. That's kind of the culmination of my thoughts on it. I honestly, after I saw The Last Jedi, I thought, I think it might be my favorite Star Wars movie. And it's been a little while since it's come out, and I'm still kind of ruminating on that fact. And I think that still holds up. I definitely understand why people don't like it. There's legitimate criticisms of it. And honestly, my opinion of it could very well change with the release of Episode 9. They tugged on all these little strings that J.J. Abrams set up in 7, and they kind of pulled them apart, and it kind of fell apart. And if they aren't able to bring those threads back together in some kind of interesting way, maybe I'll just be upset with The Last Jedi for ruining, a predictable but at least good, trajectory for the series. But if they're able to pull this off, I think it'll be ultimately much more satisfying and much more interesting than just most Hollywood movies are, and just really easily predictable and kind of boring. Like, I mean, honestly, if it had a boring plot, I would still love Star Wars because I'm just a big Star Wars fan. I love the universe and all that stuff, but you know, I appreciate it for what it did. So we will see. My opinion can change. Talk to me again in December when episode 9 comes out. Thank you so much for watching and just listening to my opinion. I'm sure if you're a Star Wars fan like me, you probably have differing opinions than me. And that's cool. Just let me know. If you like the video, click the like button. If you want to see more of my videos, you can feel free to subscribe, but you don't have to. All right. See you later. Whew. Okay.